Welcome to Favorite Things, where we're doing a watch review. This is an Incipio 8. It's an Explorer 1016 homage. And believe it or not, it itself is vintage, not just homaging a vintage watch, but it's vintage itself. It's about 25 to 30 years old. And it's made in Japan, and it houses an ETA movement. Let's talk about it after we do a wristwatch check. I'm wearing my Omega Railmaster. This time I've got it on a Uncle Seiko 1035 flat link bracelet. So this being the reissue Railmaster, it came with a pretty hefty non-tapered heavy bracelet, which is very good, very comfortable, but it does add some weight. So putting it on this Uncle Seiko was really a nice change. And so I highly recommend Uncle Seiko for not only some Seiko bracelets, but they have other brands that they represent, including the Omegas. So let's get back to this. So Incipio, well, let's do a search online and we'll find a lot of phone cases, but put the word watch in there and you'll see probably the first thing will pop up is a very, very good article that describes this watch, and I have to credit that author for a lot of the information that I'm going to give you now. These were made, like I said, in the mid-90s by a company called Tokai Beigen, which was a watch aficionado magazine, and they made watches by fans for fans, and so they put about 200 to 300 of these out for each of the models that they homaged. So there's a Incipio 9, which is a Explorer 2 1655 Steve McQueen model, which is nice. There's also an early Milgauss homage that they put out. But this is the homage for the Explorer 1016. The 1016 is still the most popular for at least collectors of the Explorer models. It ran for 30 years, from about 1960 to 1990. And then shortly after, it was replaced around that time by the first of the modern Explorers, which is the 14270. And so around that same time, Incipio started to make these homage watches for those who really wanted a 1016. So we've got a flat matte black dial. We've got the Helvetica numbers. We've got the appropriate handset. Everything looks right. And we've got the minute markers that go all the way to the edge of the dial. Very similar proportions of the original. And we've got the proportions: 36 millimeter diameter, 20 millimeter lug width, and about a 44 millimeter lug to lug. As far as the movement goes, we've got a screw down crown. We have an ETA 2824-2 movement. So not a Solita, not a Miyota. And back in those days, they were using the Swiss-made ETA movements. And it's hackable. So first position, hacks right there. No ghost position like sometimes you see nowadays. And it goes back down. And it's pretty good Swiss feel on that winding. And our bracelet is an oyster style bracelet. It does not have the screw pins. It has the push pins, or the pin and collar, pin and sleeves. So if you go to my video that I'm going to reference up at the top corner, if you need to get some help with that, I've got a video on how to use those pin tools. Now, compared to an original Rolex, which has hollow center links, this is an 11-4270 from 2007. This one actually has solid center links. You can see that. They are solid. And so that means very little stretch. I mean, a lot less than if they were hollow. Then we've got some hollow end links that fit very nicely to the case. We've got a very correctly sized and shaped winding crown. I think that's pretty good. Unfortunately, the winding crown does not have a logo, and this particular one does not have a logo on the clasp. This Incipio clam logo often does adorn the clasp of many other models, and including other Incipio 8s that you can find. For some reason, this one just came sterile, but I've seen a lot online that have the the clamshell logo right here. And then there's this little cutout that I'm not sure how that works, but these are readily available on eBay. They're going to usually come from a Japanese sellers, but that's where usually they're coming from. They're going to cost you about 5 to 10% of what an appropriately conditioned 1016 will cost. So something to keep in mind. Makes it attractive for somebody like myself who not necessarily looking for homages, but I just wanted to kind of give it a go and see what it would feel like. And yeah, I like it. It's a great little timepiece, even on its own. Let's talk about some of the negatives. So as compared to, one more positive. I find that the legibility of the dial is better than my 11-4270. Something about the absence of those gold surrounds, and also just, I don't know if it's the paint or what, but it just looks very bright. It's so easy to see the time. Look at the hands. And maybe it's the acrylic crystal. You know, we've got a domed acrylic crystal, and so that does play into the refraction and reflection of light, perhaps. So what I don't like about it, okay, yeah, it'd be nice if there was a logo here on the crown. It'd be nice if there was a logo here on the clasp. It'd be nice if it said Japan at the very bottom. But I like the dial layout. You know, the text is very similar to that of an original. Probably my biggest gripe is the case thickness. This is 13 millimeters versus the 1016, which was about 11 millimeters. So just a little bit thicker than it would be nice to have. If you look at the contours of the side of the case compared to 11-4270, it's a little thicker there, and it just maybe something about it. It's just not as elegantly contoured, not as svelthy, call it. The other thing that I don't care for, although, you know, maybe they're trying to make it look different from a 1016, I get it. But assuming the 11-4270 has similar proportions to a 1016, and I think it does, you can see that the bezel is a little bit thinner on the Incipio. The other thing that's thinner are those lugs. You see, I don't like how those lugs really thin out at the bottom. I think maybe they're trying to make it look like an over-polished older 1016. If that's the case, then they've succeeded, but I would have preferred if they just kept the lugs thicker to make it look like it was not over-polished. That's all. I do like the fact that we've got some drilled lug holes. That's awesome. Not only is it easier to change a strap if you wanted, but I think it just gives it that vintage look. I like that. All right. The other thing that I don't care for is the acrylic being domed. I wish it was more of a box style acrylic, similar to an original 1016. I'll put up a photo. But yeah. Let's take a loom shot. Let me show you what that looks like. Okay. I've got a surprise for you. Fully loomed dial. How nice is that? But look how quickly it fades as my camera is trying to pick up the focus. It fades out pretty quickly. And I'll tell you why. I believe that that's most likely a tritium luminous material that's on there. But yeah, if you think about it, in the 1990s, tritium was still the thing. Even the Rolex Explorer at the time, which was the 14270, had a tritium luminous paint. So it makes sense that this homage at that same period would have that as well. So that's basically it. Let's take a look at what it looks like on the wrist compared to an original 11-4270. Not as thin as a 1016, but still nice and flat. And here's our Incipio 8. A little bit of bulk there. Still not too bad. So thank you for watching my review. Please subscribe if you like the content and are looking for similar videos, and give me a thumbs up if you liked what you saw. I plan to have some similar videos coming up. I'm going to talk about the Explorer that I've got here, the 11-4270, and the pluses and minuses, the internal discussion about flipping it for the new 12-4270. So we can talk about that. Anyway, have a great day, and thanks again for joining me. Bye-bye now.